some of us are old enough to remember Ronald Reagan as president. When he was president, one of the big debates, and it's still going on, was prayer in school. Well, Ronald Reagan had a sense of humor. And he said, as long as there are pop quizzes, there will be prayer in school. Okay, are y'all ready to start praying? Got a quiz for you. Who could tell me, just in a couple words, the first commandment?
Love God.
Love God. Have no other gods. Okay? All right, Katie, you can't answer this one.
Okay.
Who can tell me the second one?
Love your neighbor.
No. These are the 10 Commandments.
You should have told
Don't
us.
use his name in vain.
I gave you a bulletin that's written in.
Don't use his name in vain.
Do not use the Lord's name in vain.
You gave us the cheat sheet?
Uh-huh.
It's open book.
You didn't say that, Ron.
I put that back.
Oh. All right. And the third one. I just preached on it last week. So.
Keep the Sabbath.
The Sabbath. Remember the Sabbath. Okay. So we're going to make a shift this week. If you notice, those 3 commandments dealt with how we're supposed to relate to God. We're going to shift on how we're supposed to relate to each other. But I found out they're kind of intertwined. But the 4th commandment, honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land, and that the Lord your God is giving you. This was written to the Jewish people. They were in the promised land. So that was the land he was talking about. As we read the Old Testament, we see often the tribes were battling with each other as much as they were with the outsiders. In fact, the entire nation became very divided. But God's telling us here, the foundation of our society, the foundation of our nation is the family. It's the family. And you see that it says, honor your father and your mother. Doesn't say honor your parents, doesn't say honor your father and mother. He made sure that it was phrased in such a way that the mom was just as important as the dad, and the dad was just as important as the mom. We have a huge percentage of kids growing up now in single-parent households. And that balance is not there for them. And especially young boys, as they become men, and they don't have a man in the household, they will have a higher percentage of dropout rate. They'll have a higher percentage of interactions with the law and eventually prison time. Little girls who don't have mom at home very often will not know how to relate with other women, and they very often wind up in abusive relationships. God intended for that balance to be there. That's how he starts this commandment, with the balance of mom and dad. And respect your parents. Now, when do your parents quit being your parents?
Yeah.
Right. We're stuck with them, right? But one of the great things, if you have the blessing of having that previous generation around, And you can see an example. Now, I never met a grandfather. I only met one of my grandmothers. So I never got to see how my parents treated their parents. But I know when Candy and I got married, she got to meet my parents ahead of time. Believe it or not, she married me anyway. Yeah, so. But she saw our family relationship. I didn't meet her parents till the day before our wedding. I didn't meet her brothers until a week or two later. Made me a bit nervous. Went in there and said, well, you know, the only reason they can get rid of me now, only way they can get rid of me now is kill me. And I walked in there with 3 lumberjacks by the wood stove, and I said, these guys could do it. But in this commandment, I'm going to get to the children's responsibility. But, because it sounds like this is aimed at them. And it is, to a large amount. But it's also at the parents. If we want respect, we need to be respectable. We need to live a life that our kids say, hey, I want to be like that. And yeah, when the teenage years come about, there's several of us here that have dealt with teenagers. And the controversies come up. How much open were you when the kids came up and said, I don't understand why you do this. Or I don't understand why the rules are different for you than for me. Rather than, I don't care what you say. You know, that's where the kids come in. Learning to be respectful. Okay. One of the ways we reinforce respect, you know, that commanded respect, is as long as you put your feet under my table and eat at my table, you'll follow my rules. Well, that's just following the rules. I can follow the rules and still hate you. But, see, respect them. There's got to be something good about it. You know, sometimes it's hard to find in some people. But if they learn that, then that goes out into society. And they learn to find some good in every single person. Have you had a person in your life, hopefully it wasn't your parents, that you really had a lot of trouble finding any good in them? Mm-hmm. But could you dig deep enough? Could you find something? Keep digging. Yeah. It also sets up a hierarchy. The children are supposed to respect the parents. Our society is almost, in a lot of cases, and I have parents come to me, besides being the pastor here, I'm the unofficial chaplain in the gym at the Y, and say, how do I get my teenager under control? Well, you go back to when they were 2 and start winning the battles. You start there. But so many people, and the problem they've run into is they put the child first all the time. Whatever the child wants, we're gonna plan the whole family calendar around the kids. Yeah, and the schools are almost getting so that's the way they want it. Because the school will throw out their calendar and then they'll adjust it at short notice, and we're all supposed to adapt to whatever the kids need. No, it's the other way around. Mom and dad come first to each other, and then children are drawn into that. And they learn be that way. And as I said, it comes into a intertwining with the other commandments, the respect for God and who God is. Instead of saying, God, what do you want from me? Because I respect your wisdom. And I respect your strength. What do you want from me? How can I serve you? Instead of, hey God, give me. Well, he gave me 90-degree heat, so I could get more heat tolerant. But also, when we realize that God has tasks for us, and our kids realize we have tasks for them, they start learning those responsibilities, and they start getting more of a self-worth and a self-respect. Self-esteem is just an empty psychological thing. But when you can respect yourself because you understand, I can accomplish certain things. There's also a trend that, did you know that in Louisville, you can pay about $1,000 and go to adulting classes? Now, I actually thought that when I first heard it, I said adultery classes. No, it's adulting classes, and they teach people how to address an envelope, how to write a check, and all these things. And let's see, we don't have anybody. I don't have any teenagers in here. Who was excited to get their driver's license? There's a trend now, kids don't want to get their driver's license. Because if they don't get their driver's license, they don't have to be responsible for getting any place on time. Mom will take care of that, Dad will take care of that. I wanted that freedom. Just as quick as I could get to, and that was, in America, that's the closest thing we have to a rite of passage toward adulthood. In some cultures, the Jewish culture, I like it, they have the bar mitzvah and the bar mitzvah. And it's a rite of passage for 13-year-old boys and girls. They're taken into the community, and so now you are considered a young adult, and you will be held to a higher level of accountability. And you notice I said more accountability, more responsibility, and not just more privilege. God told us from the very beginning that the family unit is critical to maintaining a good society. There are several books where kids have been thrown into a situation without adults, and they get pretty primitive. One that was Lord of the Flies is one of the most famous ones. Very cultured, advanced kids, when they're left to themselves on an island, get very barbaric. The kids need to learn respect within the family. Then they learn respect, they take that respect outside of the family into society. But we as parents have a responsibility to do the best we can to be worthy of their respect. As I was reading different commentaries on this, and one of the things that was brought out, the commandment is not to love your parents. There were times I didn't even like my dad. There were times that I did not really care for Mom a whole lot. But from the very early age, I had learned to respect them. They enforced discipline, but they also took care of us. You know, we did not have everything we wanted, but we had everything we needed. I didn't, like I said, I didn't know many grandparents, but I did know some great aunts. And they showed that when I was the first of five, when mom would have a kid, somebody would take us and while she was recovering. But a family would stick together, an extended family outward. And we have to understand, yes, and today, society, I understand why we'll say, well, they're family when there's no blood or legal relationship. Well, to me, that's just a very close friend. That's a good friend. The family is a little different. We don't even have to like each other without having blood or legal relationships. And the commandment is respect. Give them the respect. And one of the things, we have moved away from the day when a young man would go to the father of his intended bride and say, ask for permission. And in today's culture, the permission is no longer running in, but the blessing. And if you know you're marrying into a family that doesn't want you there, you better think twice about it. Like you might think thrice about it. Like those extra words they must want. Because you've got to realize once you marry in, your family has now gotten larger. And your family is going to need to be respected. But this intertwines with respecting God. There's another commandment. Let's see how much time I got plenty of time.
Clock still working, dude?
I love laughter. Don't ever think I'm. But you did check the watch, as I said. We're gonna jump up over to the sixth commandment because it is so intertwined with that, with the fourth one. Do not commit adultery. And you know, for some people, this is a very difficult commandment. Their sex drive just keeps overriding their brains. The wrong hormones get involved. And it leads to betrayal. And with betrayal, there's no trust. And when kids start seeing there's no trust between mom and dad, why, if they don't trust each other and they are one of them knows they've been betrayed, either way, husband or wife, how can they have respect for that one who was the betrayer? And that marriage, just like I talked with the kids, is a foundational covenant within our society. Now, I'm not going to mention a movement that was very involved. I'm not going to name it by name, but y'all will know who I'm talking about. As all the riots were going on and all the other unrest, racial unrest,